Welcome back. So today we are in our workbook starting with page 237. We're going to work through a whole lot of tables, noticing the patterns, and then figuring out an equation that goes along with the pattern. So let's get started. Okay, so a lot of practice here with tables. In 8 and 9, write a rule and an equation that represents the pattern in each table. So the rule is when you write it in words, and the equation obviously is an equation. It's when you use numbers and symbols, okay? So the first thing you need to do is take a close look at the table and figure out what that pattern is. 1 and 33, 2 and 34, 3 and 35, 4 and 36, 5 and 37. So what is the consistent way that these numbers are changing each time? And then for number 9, we've got 0, 0, 1, 3, 2, 6, 3, 9, and 4, 12. So how do those change? Well, in this one, y equals x plus 32. And if you go through the whole table, you'll see that it works for every single one of the answers. Okay, so there's the equation. Now for the rule, you could say something like y is 32 more than x. Okay, so do number 9, and then let's look at 10 and 11. Write a rule and an equation that represents the pattern in each table, just like in 8 and 9, but then you also have to complete the table. So first figure out the pattern, write both an equation and a rule for it, and then complete the open spaces. All right, why don't you do those first 4 problems and then come back and check your answers. Okay, so number 8 we really did together. Let's look at number 9. N equals m times 3, or 3m. If you were going to write the rule in words, you would say that n is 3 times m, or something similar to that, as long as you express the idea. Okay, let's look at number 10. So for this one, I wrote the rule first. I said the value of k is 15 less than the value of g. In an equation, that looks like k equals g minus 15. And then I went back in and said, okay, well, if that's the rule, then 47 for g means that k would be 32. And if g is 52, k would be 37. Then for number 11, I figured out that the value of x is 9 times the value of y. Or if I were going to write an equation, I would say x equals 9y. And if that's true, I can complete the table this way. If x is 27, y is 3. If x is 36, y is 4. Okay? All right. Now, let's look at numbers 12 and 13. To celebrate its 100th, oh my gosh, this one is so ridiculous, you guys. To celebrate its 125th anniversary, a company produced 125 expensive teddy bears. These 125 carat teddy bears are made of gold thread and have diamonds for eyes. What? The table shows the approximate cost of different numbers of these bears. Write an equation that can be used to find C, the cost of n bears. Okay, so C is the cost, n is the number of bears. Look at this ridiculousness. All right. 4 bears cost $188,000. Are you kidding me? 7 bears cost $329,000, and 11 bears cost $517,000. All right. So figure out the cost and then write an equation. For number 13, Andrea attends the county fair. The fair charges for admission and for each ride. That's really important to remember when you're working on this one. Admission and each ride. So use the pattern in the table to find the cost for Andrea to ride 5 rides or 8 rides. Then write an equation for the pattern. Now to solve this, you have to look over at this little information here in the drawing. County Fair gives you some information. General admission is $8. Rides are $2.50. So you have to take that into account when you're figuring this out. So if it costs $8 to get in, and then she's also doing 3 rides, it would be 3 times $2.50. That's $7.50 plus $8 to get in. So yep, there's your $15.50. Now for 4 rides, 4 rides cost $10 plus the $8 for admission, so that's $18. Fill in the table for 5 rides and for 8 rides. Then write an equation that shows that. That's a little bit tricky, but think carefully about it. And then finally, find the cost for 12 rides. All right, work on those. Come back and start the video when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so ridiculous teddy bears. C equals 47,000 N. So the total cost is going to be $47,000 times N, which is the number of teddy bears. So one stinking teddy bear costs $47,000. That's not really affordable for the treasure box. So you will not be finding any 125 carat teddy bears in the treasure box. Okay, so the county fair for 5 rides would be $20.50. For 8 rides would be $28. And here's the equation. C equals 8, that's the cost of admission, plus $2.50 R. R is the number of rides. So $2.50 times the number of rides plus your admission is going to be the cost of the whole thing. All right, and then find the cost for C, the cost C for 12 rides. So it would be 8 plus $2.50 times 12, and that would be $38. Okay? All right, let's look at the next page. In 14 and 15, write an equation that best describes the pattern in each table. Okay, so we've done this before. Take a look, figure out what the pattern is, and then write an equation that shows that pattern. Then let's look at what you're going to do in 16 through 19. Use the equation to complete each table. So now they've given you the equation, and you have to use that equation to find the missing values in all 4 of those. Why don't you work on those 6 problems and then start the video up again when you are ready to check your answers. Okay, so for this one, Z equals W minus 2, or the other way around, W minus 2 equals Z. Okay, so test it out. You can see that it works for every one of the examples. For number 15, it's Y equals 4X. You could also express it as X equals Y over 4. Okay? And then for these ones where they gave you the equation, T equals 5D plus 5. So 5 times 3 is 15 plus 5 is 20. 5 times 4 is 20 plus 5 is 25. For number 17, the missing values are 3 and 4. And for number 18, the missing values are 5 and 7. For number 19, the missing values are 6.5, 5, 3.5, 2, and 1/2. So just go through and check your work if you need to. And let's look at the bottom half of the page. Higher order thinking. Maya wrote the equation H equals D plus 22 to represent the relationship shown in the table. Is this equation correct? Well, let's take a look. Here's H equals D plus 22. Well, H equals D plus 22? Yeah, not so much. 3 plus 22 is 25, not 33. Yeah, it doesn't work for any of them. So what does work? Work on that one, okay? The table below, this one, shows the total cost C for the number of movie tickets purchased, T. Write an equation that can be used to find the cost, C, of 5 movie tickets. Use the equation and complete the table to find the cost of the tickets. So first, figure out what the equation is and write that there, and then find this missing value here. How much would 5 tickets cost? Okay, so work on those and check back when you're ready. All right. So no, Maya, that does not work. It works. Does it even work for the first one? The equation should be D equals H times 11, or you could say it like this to be even better, 11H. D equals 11H. And then for this one, the equation is C equals T times 875. 5 times 875 is 43.75. So 5 tickets would cost 43.75. Okay, let's look at the last page for today. So now we are starting to get into graphing. So let's take a look at Nancy and her little walk to Maria's house. Here's Nancy's house. Here's Maria's house. Nancy walks 4 blocks to Maria's house. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Together, they continue the walk. The walk can be described as N equals M plus 4, where N is the number of blocks Nancy walks, M is the number of blocks Maria walks. Describe how the equation, data, table, and graph reflect the walk. All right. Look for relationships. Okay, so how can you use the values in one row of the data table to describe the relationship shown in the equation, data table, and graph? So here's the equation. N equals M plus 4. So M is how much they walked together once they got to Maria's house. 4 is that Nancy walked 4 blocks to get to Maria's house in the first place. So if they walk 1 block from Maria's house, then that's 4 blocks that Nancy walks because she already walked 4 blocks. If they walked 2 blocks once they got to Maria's house, that means 6 blocks altogether for Nancy. If they walked 3 blocks once they got to Maria's house, then they walked 7 blocks altogether. Okay, so we've got an equation, N equals M plus 4. We have a table. So those are 2 different ways to show the relationship between N and M, those 2 values, right? Now we are going to use a graph to show it. So this is just a coordinate plane. And if you remember, when you graph ordered pairs, you just do the X value first, or horizontal first, and the y value is the vertical one second. So what you're going to do with your table is take the two values that you have, turn those into coordinate pairs, and plot them. So m is 1, n is 5. That turns into the coordinate pair 1, 5. And then you're going to put it on the graph. So you go over 1 and up 5 and make a point. That is not a dot, by the way. It's a point. Don't call it a dot. It's not mathematical. It's a point. And then we've got 2, 6. Okay, 2, 6 is our next ordered pair. Over 2, up 6, and we put a point, not a dot. And then our third ordered pair is 3, 7. So over 3, up 7, point, not a dot. Okay, so now you've represented the relationship between those two values on a graph. Super cool. All right, then in Model with Math, it says draw a line through those points. Notice it says points. Cameraman, could you zoom in on points? Don't you call it a dot. I'm not kidding. Points. Okay, through the points on the graph, what ordered pair on the line includes m equals 5? Okay, so if we've got 1, 2, 3, what if m was 5? What's our equation? N is m plus 4, so it would be 9. So our next point would be over 5, up, 9, and put a point at that, and then continue them. Okay? All right. So we will be working some more with this week. If you don't feel super confident yet, do not worry about it. I'll keep talking about it. I'll see you in your math meeting, and we will get it. Okay, good job. I'll see you next time. Bye.